Okay, so two things. One, I really like going to events where I can identify audience members by laugh. So like Vanessa's over here, Chanel and Leah are over there, Savannah, Zoe's somewhere around here. Oh, over there, I heard it a little better. So that's really good. I really like that. Also, I finished this like an hour and a half ago, so be gentle. It's supposed to be new, so it's fucking new. So, as the fabulous lady said, I'm in seminary, and that's really weird. Do people know what seminary is, first of all? It's like yes/crickets. So basically, people sometimes go to seminary if they're gonna be a pastor or something. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing yet, something along that line. So basically I've been writing a lot of sermons lately. Also really weird, some of you have been there, which is very good of you, thank you. And right now I've got two jobs. I work at the Harm Reduction Coalition, and I work as a pastoral intern at a Methodist church. So sex work, drug use, and church ladies is pretty much my life, and there's more crossover than you might think. So a year and a half I started going to seminary. It's something I thought about doing for a really long time, and in fact I'm pretty sure the first time I ever mentioned it to another human was in 2008. I was sitting on a stoop in San Francisco drinking tequila out of tiny bottles. I just finished one of my very first burlesque shows and had gone to one of my date's house for basically a booty call. Glitter head to toe, pasty still on, a little bit drunk, and out of nowhere I just kind of looked at her and was like, I think I'm gonna go to seminary. And she just kind of looked at me wide-eyed and laughed, kissed me, and that was kind of that. And there has since been many, many jokes about that moment. Up until that point, I didn't really know that seminary was a thing. I knew I wanted to learn more about faith and ritual, and more than that, I wanted to learn how to hold sacred space for folks who had been made to feel unwelcome in churches, myself included. But I didn't know that there were schools that would, at least in theory, teach me how to do that. I suppose I first thought about doing something with the church after going to a series of really fucked up and disrespectful funerals for my friends. I'd lost about 8 friends in a year, and I was really angry. I'd been a community organizer since I was 14, trying to make life feel a little more livable in my white, working-class town in Ohio. But still, my friends kept dying. Overdose, suicide, car accidents while driving drunk, the war. And I remember thinking that if the world wasn't gonna honor the people I loved while they were here, then I should at least learn how to bury them with some honor. These things are related somehow. A moment of feeling fully embodied on a stoop in San Francisco, and the desire to learn to bury my dead. At this point, I'm about halfway through a 3-year program. It's getting a little easier and a little more impossible every day. I spent the first year feeling pretty mad and alone. For the first month or two, I sat quietly in class, which is fairly uncommon for me. I would raise my hand to make a comment and my heart would beat out of my chest. And for the first time in a really long time, I was fully out of my element and terrified of getting something wrong. When I spoke, I could feel the shudder in my voice, and I spent most of the time feeling really, really stupid. It took me some time to realize that I was allowing myself to be intimidated by intellectual snobbery and near made-up words like hermeneutic, homiletic, ecumenical, what the fuck. But more than that, I was playing by someone else's rules. I thought to be good at what I wanted to learn that I had to learn how to talk like them. And even though the seminary I go to considers itself progressive, it's still really white, really Christian, and largely attended by upper to upper middle class students. All of which results in a sort of quiet politeness, which I'm sure most of you know. The unspoken rules are in full effect. You don't swear, You avoid conflict. You don't talk about sex. You don't talk about the body at all. You avoid making anyone too uncomfortable, and you don't challenge authority. It's really boring, it's exhausting, and it's a little bit suffocating. I'd never wanted a master's degree. I was the first in my family to go to a four-year college, and I always felt better working than in a classroom. I wasn't bred for higher education. In fact, my high school counselor told me I shouldn't even bother applying to community colleges, despite my 4.5 GPA. My family was too poor, so I should just get a job and figure it out. But many, if not most, of my fellow students were raised with that quiet sort of politeness. I was not. My family cusses and farts at the dinner table, and we only say grace on Christmas. For example, I once brought a sweetheart home with me, and they had been in the house for all of 10 minutes when we were having dinner, and my mom just farts at the table, like regular, and my grandma goes, "Jesus Christ, Christine!" And my grandpa just sort of shakes his head and goes, "I can't believe I made that with my penis." They almost shit. Yeah. My mother has never been called quiet in her life. Ballbuster, hoss, stubborn, loudmouthed, but never quiet and never ever ever polite. My mistake was in letting myself believe that their way was more pious or appropriate than our way. I gave them the high ground. I replicated exactly what I'd gone there to undo. I'd forgotten how sacred we are. And while it's hard to articulate that at school, it's equally hard to articulate that in community, especially in so-called radical queer community, where analysis is supposed to trump emotion, as if they're mutually exclusive somehow, where faith is only allowed to be something naive, ignorant, or power-hungry, even though that's not how most of us were raised, even though it's often a mixture of some sort of faith and pride that's kept us alive till today, even though our grandmother might still tell us that she'll keep us in her prayers when we talk to her. We have our own rules, and they're often defined by white, middle-class, masculine ideals, just like the ones in the classroom. They're just coded a bit differently. Both places like to pretend like the sacred and the secular are separate, which I've come to feel as some sort of spiritual violence. What I know is that being well-fucked, well-loved, and well-fed is some of the only salvation I've ever known. And I want a space to talk about it. I want a space to be raw and candid and brave. I want to hear the secret whisperings of people's spirits, and I want to share mine. I want to tell about the night I fucked my ex up against the bedroom door, and how when they ejaculated, it soaked my hair and pooled in my high heel. I want that recognized as some sort of baptism. I want to tell about how when I was a teenager, I thought God whispered to me at night. And I want to talk about how we call it crazy when God talks to queers, to women, to youth, to people on the street, but we call it ministry when a white man with a congregation says the same thing. I want my grandmother's sayings classified as parables. I want the people I love to know they're holy, which means they're worthy and they're on purpose. I want us to be able to play by our own fucking rules. I've learned how to bury my dead. Now I want those deemed too loud, too crude, too real, too much, to be recognized as the most glorious and ungracious of all the saints, because that's what we fucking are.
Like for now.